those of you who filled out the survey, thank you very much. Make sure you hand in your survey and your badge, and you will be eligible for either a Himss membership, or if you already have a Himss membership, a $100 Amazon gift card. And who doesn't want that right now with the holidays coming up? So we also have another vendor who's offering something. Come on up. Come on up. We have another. We're also going to raffle off one more thing. I'm going to let Michael tell you.
Michael Ronan with Lenovo Health. So we're a hardware IT provider that cover everything from Hands Pocket with Motorola phones to the data center. So no, you will not win a data center today. But if you do fill out the raffle or fill out the form and turn in your badge at the end, then I will agree. I've already agreed to raffle off a ThinkPad X1 tablet. So if you haven't seen the X1 tablet, there's one up there that I have on my table that has a projector built in. This one does not have the projector. You'll have to buy that yourself. But it's worth about $2,500. So great offer. So thanks for coming. Give the introduction.
That would be great. I think the only we're going to have a great next session that's about to be introduced. One, bear with us. We're going to swap computers midway. So if I look really elegant up here along the journey, please feel free to enjoy that. So I'm going to pass off the introductions and we'll get into it.
So again, I'm Michael Ronan with Lenovo Health. Feel free to come by the booth as well because I have a ton of hand sanitizer and I don't want to bring it home. And bottle openers, which you might need later on today. Okay? So take them off the table, please. I do not want to bring them home. Our next person up is going to be Jeff Sanford. Jeff Sanford is the CFO for Beacon Health, Eastern Maine Healthcare Systems. Beacon Health leads EMHS in population health efforts in transforming healthcare payment models. As the CFO of Beacon Health, Jeff provides financial leadership for developing population health contracts and building a provider-driven health plan. He's responsible for creating financial models and strategies necessary to implement business plans. He must love macro too.
Wicked. We're going to talk about that.
Oh, awesome. In addition, he also monitors the performance of members participating in population health activities, does due diligence and propose new members, collaborates in member contract compliance, provides decision support, and participates in contract negotiations. With that, everybody please welcome Jeff Sanford.
So, have you ever heard of a more boring bio than that one? So, thank you for coming today, and I'm certainly glad to be here. And I'm probably the only bean counter in the room, which always makes me a little nervous. I stand corrected. But before I was a bean counter, I was an IT guy. And before that, I was a bean counter. And the reason I'm here is because of Deb Culver, actually. So 20 years ago, next week, my wife started at Eastern Maine Healthcare Systems working for Deb. And then about 6 months later, I convinced Deb to hire me too. So that's why I'm here, that's why I'm in Maine. So I have too many slides in this presentation. And so some of these I'm going to go through fairly quickly. This is my rough agenda. I'll give you a brief background on Beacon Health. I'll talk a little bit about the population health industry, what's driving that, and what value-based care and population health look like. I'm going to pound through those slides fairly quickly. If you have questions, stop me. We'll talk about them. And I want to spend more time about what's working for us and what's not working for us. And then we'll stop, we'll have our next speaker, and then we'll sort of get back together for questions. So if I'm racing through some of these slides, it's because I am. So Beacon Health is Eastern Maine Healthcare Systems population health organization. We do risk contracting, we do population health, we disrupt things. That's kind of our job, is to make people uncomfortable about the quality, the cost of healthcare, and really sort of drive change in our organization. We We cover a big chunk of Maine. We're up to about 100 employees now. Most of those are RNs who provide our care coordination services. We cover about a little over 100,000 lives. Those are the people that we try to keep their healthiest and keep healthy. And we do a few other things in addition to pop health. We'll move right on. Similar map to the last one. So Beacon Health not only includes the 9 member hospitals that are part of Eastern Maine Healthcare System, but we partner with a handful of other hospitals, MDI, Northern Maine Medical Center, Down East, and Central Maine. So, what's driving population health, risk-based contracting, value-based care? Medicare, they're driving. They are trying to better manage costs and improve quality, and they're doing this on a number of fronts. Increasingly, they're trying to link payments to providers to value. If you've not been paying attention, the latest and greatest one is called MACRA. And if MACRA hasn't touched your life yet, it will soon. No question about that. They're also, driving it through alternative payment models. That's what ACOs are, and that's primarily what Beacon does. And there's a variety of other programs they have around bundled payments and other demonstration projects. But it's Medicare that's leading the charge here. But that's not to say that the commercial payers haven't sort of picked up on this and said, you know what, some of this stuff's a pretty good idea if it's going to lower costs and improve quality. So I'll spend just a little bit of time on this slide, and this really sort of gives you kind of a brief history of the evolution of payment models. So if we start on the left side of this slide, the good old fee-for-service days, and there's still a fair amount of this in there. And if you were a healthcare provider, you wanted more volume, longer length of stay, and lots of testing. I mean, that's how the system was set up. It was more. Quite a few years ago, Medicare implemented DRG payment systems, started to tie some cost and quality together. So with DRG systems, you were still incentivized to do more volume, but you were incentivized to reduce your length of stay and reduce the number of ancillary tests. So really, DRGs are like the opening salvo, if you will, on trying to get more value out of the healthcare system. And really the next step is on the far right, accountable care systems, where we want to, as Deb said this morning, we actually want to reduce volume in our hospitals, which seems counterintuitive since they pay most of us. They also want to reduce the length of stay, reduce the number of tests, reduce. But at the same time, delivering great quality and great patient experience. So what's an ACO look like? That's actually people that work for Beacon. So it looks kind of like those guys. But it's patient-centered, so more focused on the patient. It's really about connecting the silos of care together. In fact, I think the next slide sort of does this better. So healthcare in our system tends to be siloed, and the care in those silos can be tremendous, but the communication across those silos can be poor. And certainly Deb talked about this morning the work that they've done in the HIE to help us sort of connect those silos together. And that's what ACOs are doing as well, right? So when we talk about care coordination from a population health point of view is really designed to help a patient navigate across the continuum of care. Care managers or care coordination that may happen in a hospital tends to be episodic focused, right? So you're in there for a particular issue. You may have a care manager or care coordinator that's helping you with that issue. In population health, we try to help you across that entire spectrum. And what we're really trying to do is take those silos and sort of bring them together in a more coordinated effort. And what you pretty sort of quickly see here is in those boxes that now surround those patients, EMRs obviously play a big role. Health information exchange, what Deb talked about, care management. All of these things require some reasonably well-working systems for them to work well and efficiently. So, how do ACOs work? They're way more complicated than I'm going to describe, but I'm going to give you sort of ACOs 101 here. So the first part of population health is deciding who that population is, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. But this creates some confusion in the industry, because when we say population health, you might think of like my whole community, right? That's a population. If you live in Brewer, Maine, and Bangor, it's a whole community. That's the population we're trying to keep healthy. That's not how it works in risk contracting. We're talking about a very reasonably well-defined group of people that we're going to try to keep healthy, not the entire community. Once we know who we're going to take care of, who we're at risk for, we need to set some targets around cost and quality. There's not an ACO contract out there that doesn't connect those two together. So you can't deliver really low-cost care and poor quality. There's no equation in which that works, and no payer that's going to pay for that. So there's targets set for both of those. Once we know the targets and the population, then we need to do a great job of caring for those patients and connecting the dots and connecting it together and keeping them their healthiest. Deliver high-quality care, and then ultimately settle up to find out, did I meet or beat my cost and quality targets? And if I did, I get paid. If I didn't, I may get paid nothing, and worse yet, I may actually have to pay somebody because I didn't meet those targets. So, I talked about this a little bit already, about who. Again, population health, a bit of a misnomer. We are really talking about a defined set of people that we're going to take care of. It's sort of a science and sort of an art to determine that who. We call it attribution or assignment, and it's a process of really trying to make sure that we're going to take care of patients that are connected to our respective health system. And that's primarily based on what PCP they go see and certain specialists. So as an ACO, I don't want to take risk for any patients that's not somehow connected to my providers, right? I don't want to take risks for the patients that are going to see St. Joe's providers. I want to take risks that are going to see, EMMC and Inland and Mercy and the healthcare providers that are connected to us. So we use this method of attribution. It's usually based on claims, and we look at members of a particular group. It could be Anthem, for example, and those that have claims with our PCPs and possibly cardiologists will be connected to us, and that's the group that we're going to take risk for. Those are the people that we're going to focus our care coordination, our data analytics, our interventions to try to keep their healthiest. And of course, once we know that group, we put them into the sort of classic pyramid and segmentation about who needs interventions, right? We've probably heard that the top 5 or 10% really are the patients who are costing us the most in terms of healthcare dollars, and that's who we'll tend to focus on. And we'll deliver different level of intervention depending on the level of risk in that pyramid. Very quickly, how the equations work here. I mentioned you set cost and quality targets. That's usually based on an historic baseline. This is kind of the old Pioneer ACO model. They used a 3-year average for their baseline, and then they trend that average forward, and that's what's used to set the target that we try to beat. If we beat that target, it's winner, winner, chicken dinner, and we get paid. If it's a two-sided risk arrangement and we don't beat that target, we can turn around and write a check back to that particular organization. Which sad to say, we did that with CMS. They wrote us a check one year, and we turned around and wrote them a check back the next year. It wasn't obviously happy days. So that's very quickly Beacon Health, Population Health 101. Now let's talk about stuff that you probably be a bit more interested in, which is what what are the information needs of ACOs, and sort of what's the state of the industry right now. I will say Beacon started with their first risk contract in 2012, and that was with CMS, was Pioneer. We went in with our eyes wide shut. We had very little data. We had practically no systems, and like 32 other pioneers, we just jumped in feet first. I'd like to say all that's changed, but that would be a lie. It hasn't. So we jumped in without a lot of the support we'd like, and systems are still sort of maturing, right? They're still not quite there where we'd like them to be. Again, Deb talked a little bit about this, and this slide really kind of reflects the journey that we've been on since 2012. Although we didn't have the systems we would have liked to in 2012, we've been able to piece together bits and pieces that have provided us an insight on what we need to do and what we need to take care of. And we started to acquire and manage that data, start to analyze it and piece it together. And what we struggled with was, we could tell somebody what the per member per month cost was for our Medicare population for all those lives we had in Beacon. And that's really great. But that doesn't turn into action at our hospital or provider or physician level. And so our drive over the last 18 months has been to really get us to the point where we have actionable data. That's what ACOs want, actionable data. We don't really care that out of the 15,000 lives that are in NextGen, the total cost is $787 per member per month. What we need to know is, what does it cost in Dr. Smith's practice compared to Dr. Jones's practice? And why are they different? Let's figure out why Jones is doing such a great job. Why can't Smith do the same? So our drive has been to get to that actionable data. When I think about our information needs, I sort of put them into these sort of 6 broad categories. Population health operations, I'll talk a little bit more about each of these. In fact, I'm going to skip this slide and we'll just move right on to those. So population health operations, this is really keeping track of who's participating with us as providers, who we've, the provider information that goes along with that, patients that are aligned to us, and we kind of have a mix of sort of homegrown and off-the-shelf systems that now help us do this. And this is really the kind of the unsexy, backroom stuff that has to happen so that when Community Health Options says, well, send me a list of the providers that are your providers so I can figure out what patients are connected to you, comes out of those type of operations type systems. So these are okay, they could be better, but not too bad for operations. This has been a nightmare. Claims analysis and data analytics, this is the really sexy stuff, right? This is predicting who's going to land in the hospital and so on and so forth. And we have, try as we might, have made poor decisions around this sort of right from the get-go. So we outsourced this originally to Geisinger Health Plan. It cost us 4 arms and 2 legs, quite frankly. And we were beholden to their pace of willingness to give us data. So then we had a better idea. We tried NEAC, and some of you may remember NEAC. It was a really great idea. It was a joint venture with Eastern Maine, Maine Health, Dartmouth, Fletcher Allen, and somebody else I can't remember. I think Dartmouth twice. I think that's what it was. Fantastic idea. We were going to take claims data and EMR data and smash it together, and it was going to give us fantastic information. They closed a little over a year ago. Not happy news. So then we said, all right, we're done with outsourcing this. We're going to do some insourcing. So we actually had a two-pronged strategy, and I'll talk a little bit about this as well. We contracted with, we're EMHS, so it's Cerner. So we contracted with Cerner to provide, data warehouse, data analytics, all the stuff that we were ever going to want for population health. But we also learned a valuable lesson from NEAC, which was you need a source of truth. You need something really simple that says, this is what it's costing you to deliver care to these patients. Because the fancy stuff is so complicated that without the source of truth, you can believe what's coming out of those great, complicated, integrated systems, but we were going to have a source of truth, and that source of truth was also our plan B if Cerner didn't work. So we hired an internal biostatistician, and for $500,000, I would give her her name, but otherwise, I would never reveal it. She is a rock star. And we hired a local company out of Portland, Compass, to help us with our source of truth. And they've done such a great job as the source of truth. They're now our primary source of claims analytics and data. And they're the ones right now providing us tremendous actionable data. They let us focus in on high-cost providers, high-cost patients, what the referring patterns look like. We're having so much fun with it, we can hardly stand it, quite frankly. But it's not as tightly and nicely integrated as we'd probably like that to be, but it's a good step forward for us. I'm going to skip that slide. So here's what we do with our data analytics. We take that actionable data and we share the crap out of it, right? We meet with primary care providers, that's our population health group. We meet with the CEOs, COOs, CFOs of all our partners on a monthly basis. We have local population health groups that we meet with on a monthly basis, and we have also data access groups. And we deliver the same message to all of those groups. So whatever the docs and the practice managers heard at population health, the next week we tell the same thing to the executive leaders, and so on and so on and so on. And every once in a while we still get people who go, well, I didn't know about that. How could you not? We've told everybody same message, but what's interesting, it's not the same message at EMMC that it is at Inland, because they're different, right? They're not unique, but they're all different. And if you don't recognize those differences and let those organizations solve their own problems, you try to solve those problems for them, it's not going to work for you. That's what we've learned. Different organizations, we provide them the data, we share it transparently, it's unblinded. They can see how they compare to all the other hospitals that are in our network. And sometimes it makes for really uncomfortable discussions. But we let them solve their own problems with the data and the information that we give them. EHR and and Health Information Exchange Access. Love Deb, love what he's done for the state of Maine. Provides us a ton of data that we use coming out of Health InfoNet. And in fact, what's really happened to us is we are inundated with information. Those alerts come flowing in, just like he said, bing, bing, bing. And we get alerts from Health InfoNet, we get them from our own EMRs, we get them from the payers that we work with. We get more alerts than you can shake a stick at. And quite frankly, what we're hoping is going to happen is someone's going to figure out how to better manage these with technology. Right now, we have to hack through them with human resources. Care management, this is a big hole for us right now. Our care managers don't really have a system of their own that they can document, that we can keep track of, you know, who's under care management, how long they were in, when were they discharged, what were the outcomes, and this is an area we'd really love to see some work done. Quality and pop health reporting. This is an area that we've done a really good job in sort of right from the get-go. In spite of the fact that our EMRs are getting a little long in the tooth, we have two systems that work really nicely together. Centricity, believe it or not, and a product called Meridios, which goes into Centricity and pulls out the quality data that we need to report on. And we've been reporting tremendously good quality data really since 2012, and it's really helped us improve our quality over that span of time. I'm going to skip through these. And kind of here's, again, that same discussion in a little different flow of the work, but you know, we pull the quality data out of those various EMRs. Centricity, although it's only one EMR, it probably accounts for 80% of our outpatient data. And again, we take that information and we share that liberally and unblinded with all of those groups. Skipping through those. Really quickly on MACRA. So MACRA is this wonderful new value-based purchasing model for physicians and other providers that bill Medicare Part B. Basically what this chart tells you is that MACRA is just a really bad ACO model. That's what it is, right? You're judged on cost and quality and a couple other categories. And all the things that we're doing under the ACO, under NextGen and our MSSP, are very much the same things we're going to have to do for physicians who land under MIPS, under the MACRA track. Again, MIPS is just a really bad ACO model. And as one consultant told me, MACRA is all bad, but if you can avoid MIPS and stay in the advanced APM model, which NextGen is, that's the best sort of track that you can go down. So this will be occupying a lot of our attention over the next couple of years, but the way to take the confusion out of it is if you just think about it as a really crappy ACO, that it actually makes a little bit of sense. So let me just summarize real quick with our sense of successes at Beacon. I mentioned quality, data gathering, and our dashboarding there. That's worked really well for us. And our performance improvement process around that. We bring together physicians, practice managers, quality folks on a monthly basis. We share with them the data, and we let them come up with the solutions to those problems. That process has worked great for us. With claims analytics, that was a problem for us. We really feel pretty good about it with our internal biostatistician and our Compass database. The folks in IS will not, at EMHS, will not allow me to call it a data warehouse. That's forbidden. That's going well for us. We've got a great method of identifying gaps in care. So we're able to find, members that we need to focus on a particular issue in their healthcare and close that gap. I'd mentioned actionable data. This is being able to take data and get down to the hospital level, the practice level, the physician level, and that really helps you identify where we need to do some work. And again, I think we've done a great job of identifying individuals that need care and intervention. What's not working for us? I'd mentioned the flood of surveillance data or the alerts. There's just a mountain of it. And we were having RNs sort of wade through this. We're probably going to have MAs wade through it, but it'd be really great if we didn't need to wade through it, if we had systems that would help us with that. Obviously, multiple EMRs, nirvana would be to have, one outpatient EMR together with an inpatient EMR instead of having to deal with multiple. I'd mentioned source of truth. We feel like we have a great source of truth right now. And we'll continue to always have that, even when we go to more sophisticated systems. We'd like to see some of these systems mature, and again, coming up with a way to deliver actionable data right to a physician's desktop. Systems are starting to come out to be able to do that. but that would be a great ask for us. And as I mentioned, we really don't have a strong care management support system. We use Centricity to do most of that, wasn't really built to do that, and so it ends up lacking for us pretty substantially. So, going to hand off, and then after Piola's presentation, we'll take questions.